You're on the carnivore diet.
Yeah.
How long have you been doing carnivore?
Over 1,000 days.
Over 1,000 days.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
What do
You're
you mean?
measuring your life in days?
Well, that's the name of the video.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So over 3 years
Yeah.
on carnivore.
Well, mostly meat-based.
Almost 3 years.
Yeah.
Tell me what your typical day of eating looks like.
Typical day of eating is have nothing to eat throughout the morning and then come home after work and
We're together.
We're together. We eat 1 or 2 steaks and some eggs with butter.
What kind of steak?
Ribeye or New York strip.
He does all the cooking.
Yeah. And then that keeps us satisfied and satiated until later in the day.
Why do you eat this pretty extreme way of eating? Not that it actually feels extreme when you're doing it, but I mean relative to the standard American diet. What's the deal? Why are you eating like this?
Because I ran into many physical/health problems. Started to feel weak and unwell, and a display of many symptoms. Started to not feel good about myself, and I was eating my whole life. I've eaten tons of sugar.
Let's call it what it really is.
Addicted to sugar, basically, and tons of carbohydrates. And I knew the sugars were probably bad for me. I actually didn't know that the carbohydrates were quote unquote bad for me.
We bought into the real bodybuilder diet for
I was eating,
like
the 4 to 6 times a day.
Yeah.
Bodybuilder diet, whether it was chicken breast or anything else, and carbohydrates, but then eating candy and donuts late at night and all that. I knew that was a bad addiction and that was probably harming me. And then you get away with things when you're very young, but after my 30s and then well into my 40s, the joint pain started getting worse, the skin issues were getting worse, psoriasis and dermatitis, and digestive issues started getting worse. And
how are all those things today, 1,000 days into your carnivore
they're all pretty much all resolved.
Wow.
No issue with any of that stuff. Everything's good to go.
It's good to go?
Yeah.
Nice. So why do you keep eating carnivore?
Oh, because at this point, it just feels like there's no other way to eat. I can't imagine going back to the other. It just feels like this is the way to eat.
It's easy to eat well during the day, right? Whatever you think your diet should be, it's easy to stick to it. But then you had a little nighttime situation where you would
Everyone goes to sleep and I go out to the store and I buy 4 or 6 donuts and eat most of them.
Not now, but
Not
years
now,
ago.
but years ago, and it was just a total addiction. I'd eat the bodybuilder meals throughout the day, and then at night, candy, donuts.
And you're talking about everyone, we have
Not
kids.
Not feeling good after I did it.
Yeah, so you're talking about, we have kids, they're 7 and 11 today, so when they were little, I'd go to sleep with the kids, and then you'd be up late at night, and that's when you would get your donuts. And actually, I used to joke that I could tell how stressed out you were because in the morning I would open the refrigerator and I would see a box of donuts in there, and then I knew it was a problem. And depending on how many he had eaten, I was like, oh, he's really feeling stressed. Yeah. So I have a question. Did you ever think there would be a time in your life when you weren't eating donuts regularly or other junk food?
No, I don't think I ever envisioned the future being like that.
And today, how many donuts do you eat in a year today?
0.
0 donuts.
Yeah.
And that's pretty
Yeah. Even though the almost exclusively carnivore has been for over 1,000 days, the no donut thing was probably 5 or more years ago.
5 years, no donuts.
I started with finding out from, everything you see on YouTube, just getting into the lower carbohydrate / ketogenic, more meat, all that kind of stuff. So that's when I stopped the whole donut and sweets stuff.
Is that why the Dunkin' Donuts stock went down 5 years ago? There was like a major
I'm sure I was part of that.
Drop
Yeah, I'm sure that was part of it. Yeah.
I'm glad we sold them before you stopped eating. Just kidding. So I have a question. If I were to tell you you have to start eating the standard American diet tomorrow, how does that make you feel? What's your visceral reaction to that statement? Starting tomorrow, no more carnivore. You're going back to standard American diet, carbs, lean meats, sugar. That would feel depressing. It would feel beyond depressing, because I can imagine if something happens in your life in the course of a day or a week that gets you down for a period of time, even if it's for a month or 2. I've been depressed for a period of time, but this is worse than that. If somebody were to tell me you have to go back to the standard American diet for any long length of time or the rest of your life, it sounds dramatic, but it would almost feel like the life I have now, which is miles beyond the life I had before as far as my mental and physical health, would be over. I feel like I would go into a helpless slow downward spiral, in some cases not so slow depending on what the symptom you're talking about. It would actually feel helpless, because I would feel like the only solution to that is to do what I'm doing now, and that's not available. So I would almost feel like a victim who's in a helpless situation and there's no way out of it. Whereas
for the worse. Yeah.
And that's how you would feel if
it
someone
sounds
said,
dramatic, but that's
you have to eat a standard. Yeah.
Yeah,
But now you don't feel like a victim.
I would feel like it. No, I feel like strong, and I know we're not in control of everything in our lives, but that's the feeling you get is confident, strong, in control. I can dictate how good I feel on a regular basis, and I just feel empowered. And if somebody said as a punishment or whatever hypothetical scenario you had to go back to a standard American diet, I mean, even saying that would be the worst punishment you could give me, I'm not even sure if that's true or not, but it would be somewhere along the lines of the life as I know it now. And the depressing thing wouldn't even be that I would just feel bad immediately or when that would happen or how bad I would feel. It's the outlook of, for the next however many decades, I would have to do this. In that anticipation and acceptance of that far into the future, having to do that, knowing what the ramifications are, would be beyond depressing. It almost
the
feel like
ramifications being ill health.
the reality we know now would just be over, and there's nothing I can do about it. The depths of it are a little hard to explain, but it's something along those lines. Yeah.
When you started eating like this 5 years ago, did you imagine yourself feeling as good? How old are you today?
53, going to be 54 in a couple months.
Oh yeah. Oh, I thought
I am.
usually adds a year on there, but that's true. That's correct.
Usually I say I'm 54 already, but then she gets
trying to get credit for looking way younger than his actual age. Right. So you're 53, almost 54. So you were in your late 40s when you started this. If someone had said to you then, in 5 years, you're going to feel amazing, you're going to have zero pain on a regular basis, you'll have no diagnoses, you'll be on no medications, you'll get a 0 CAC score, by the way. Would you have believed that 5 years ago, being at that low point that you were?
It's hard to say. It's hard to really think back and have those thoughts in my head back then. But I would say, when you remember the things you thought and believed in the past, I would have to say no, because, finding something like this, like the heavy meat-based carnivore diet, is something that when you find it, it just seems crazy. And I've never heard of this. How could people be doing this? How could it work this well? So knowing that when you find it, those are the things that you experience, then before you find it and before you know about it, you can never imagine anything existing like that or working that well. So I would have to say no.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Does it feel hard to be carnivore?
No, it's the easiest thing in the world you will ever do. It's the easiest thing you will ever do. You literally go to the store, you buy a bunch of meat, eggs, there's a couple things on the list like Ken Berry, beef, butter, bacon, and eggs. But
Dr. Ken Berry.
Dr. Ken Berry. You literally go to the store, you buy a bunch of meat, some eggs, some butter, you go home and you cook it any way you want, and you eat as much as you can until you're full, where you say, I just can't chew and swallow another bite, and then you go about your day. And then when the time comes again where you say, I'm feeling hungry, you just do the same thing again. Usually it'll be about twice in a day that you do that, if you're truly eating till you're full. And literally day after day, that's all you do. You just go to the butcher, you buy some meat, you go to the dairy, you buy some eggs and butter, you go home, you cook it, you eat it till you're full. And literally day after day, year after year, it's literally that simple. Would you agree?
I agree.
Okay.
Well, it's simple for me because he does all the shopping and the cooking,
I shop
and
he cooks
at a really
But that's
nice
literally
steak.
all you do every day. That's all you do. Not thinking about food until
You
you get the
panic.
hunger.
You used to have, I
every 2
remember,
hours.
so we've been together about 20 years now. And when we were younger people, we've always worked out a lot together. You would panic when you got hungry. Do you remember that?
There were, moments of panic. It must have been low blood sugar, the lightheadedness, the fatigue. Had to immediately put energy into my body.
Hangry.
Usually in the form of carbohydrates, which is ironic. The only thing that would relieve that, I'd have to just quickly go home. If we're out somewhere, literally telling Lori, I have to go home and eat something. I'm about to pass out, and make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and consume it. And it literally felt, eating that peanut butter and jelly sandwich within 2 minutes, felt like heaven. It literally feels like a gift from heaven, because then it relieves that feeling and you feel normal again. And what it must have been is that eating 4 to 6 times a day, that standard American / bodybuilder diet or whatever, you eat a bunch of carbohydrates, your blood sugar goes up, your insulin gets spiked. Of course, your pancreas overshoots the insulin, brings the blood sugar down, but then it overshoots it it, someone like me, I don't have a lot of fat reserves on my body. You get those symptoms of hypoglycemia, and then you need to go eat the sugar and carbohydrates and sugars to bring the blood sugar back up, and then the same thing just happens again, week after week, month after month.
Do you even feel hunger often on the carnivore diet?
I wake up in the morning. Yeah, you might feel a slight hunger signal, but it's not a panic. You just feel like, oh, either I'm not hungry or I can eat in a couple hours. It just slowly creeps up on you and gradually, and then you just decide when you want to eat. And then usually we eat at midday. And then after we eat that one, just don't think about food again until later in the day. Sometimes not at all. It's completely different. Whatever my body's using for energy now, well, not whatever. We know it's the fat. That whole process of fat and ketones and all that stuff is just gives you a completely different life and existence than running on sugar and carbohydrates as fuel, which is just an up and down roller coaster your entire life.
So there's lots of obvious symptoms that have disappeared and all the benefits we've talked about. So we're still lifting regularly in the gym. Do you see benefits in the gym being on carnivore?
I'm as strong.
No.
Or
You're
in
stronger.
some of the things stronger than even in my 20s when I was doing literally low level, meaning I wasn't competing or anything, but I was doing bodybuilding at just a casual level. But I had a bodybuilding workout in frame and in muscles, and a lot of the exercises we do now, I'm as strong or stronger than 30 years ago. And with no pain. I was doing it back then with knots in my back, arthritic shoulders that hurt when now there's no pain and I'm stronger.
And you're 53.
And no muscle soreness either. When we work
no
out,
muscle soreness.
You can do a heavy, high intensity workout to fatigue and very minimal soreness.
So it's interesting.
Faster recovery.
So it's interesting to find this at this stage in life because I'm not 53, by the way. I'm younger than Howie, but we're middle-aged, and so we're in this age of life, this season where everyone we know is complaining about gaining weight no matter what they eat, and feeling bad and having chronic pain and being on all these medications. And our experience is literally the opposite. We feel stronger and healthier, and we're on 0 medications. And I think that those benefits bleed into every aspect of life, right? Like it's also just we're in a better mood, and we're not short with our kids, and we're not as impatient. We're not 20-something-year-old people. We're at this age where most people's health is declining, and they're seeing a lot of issues. And would you say we're seeing the opposite?
Yes, it's odd because now the more you're around people, you are around people, and as we're all getting older, to just continue to hear our cohort, family or friends talking more and more about their declining physical health and medical issues, and we have nothing to say about any of that. We can't join in, we just listen, and it's strange to hear that because we don't have any of that. If anything, we would like to discuss how much better we're feeling, how much better we look, how much stronger we are, but we can't have those conversations with most people we're around because it's not the case for them. So it's actually a little, I wouldn't say uncomfortable, it's a little bizarre, it's a little strange to have an existence like this with all of that going on around us. So,
it's almost like it seems too simple, but it works. But if anything, when we tell people we're eating this way, they are scared for our well-being. Our son was in 4th grade last year. He told his friends that we eat steak every day. And when I met the kids in school, his friend said, "Is it true that you eat steak every day?" And I said, "Yeah." And he looked at me and he said, "How are you guys still alive?" That's kind of like a very extreme version of the reaction we get. But people send me articles about how too many eggs is going to kill you and all that stuff. But we just ignore it. I guess my last question for you would be, what's your one piece of advice for someone who's either new to carnivore or seeking relief from some health issues or discomfort in their life through diet, and they are interested in starting carnivore? What would your one piece of advice be for them?
For the next 90 days, do what I said earlier about how we go about our days of eating is literally get rid of all the other food you have, go to the store, buy a bunch of meat, whatever you want, some eggs, some butter, go home, cook it, eat as much as you can, and then the next time you're hungry, do it again later in the day, and just do that every day for 90 days. That's would be my suggestion.
Why 90 days?
Because you have to give it a certain amount of time to see if it's working for you. I would say 30 days isn't enough, and obviously to just say commit to this for the rest of your life without having a period of time where you've done it and decided for yourself doesn't seem reasonable. So I would say 90 days is enough time to really see if it's going to work for you, and enough time where when you do see it works for you to say, I want to keep doing this.
Do you think in just 90 days someone who really commits to carnivore would see a reversal of some symptoms?
Yeah, and most of the stories you see and hear about, and there's thousands of them that you can find, are usually happen before 90 days, and usually within within 30 to 60 days, I would say give it 90 days, just to be sure.
I think a part of it is if you've done it 90 days, it's kind of like...
I'm pretty sure by 90 days
I'm gonna keep
you'll
going,
be convinced. I'm pretty sure, yeah.
What do you think about, there's a lot of content out there, and I see a lot of people spinning their wheels and thinking it's not that simple. Oh, okay, just go to the store and buy meat. What kind of meat, and where should it be sourced from, and what cut should I get, and how do I cook it? What do you say to all of that optimization that happens that stalls people, where they worry about those details? Do they matter at first?
They do not matter, and they may not ever matter. From what us are personally experiencing, and then when you follow these other channels, what you see is, for most people, most of that stuff does not matter, and it may prevent you from just getting started and doing this. All of those details and optimization thoughts you're having, the most important thing is just to start doing this. Just buy whatever cut of meat you want. Doesn't matter if it's grass-fed or grain-fed. Doesn't matter if the eggs are pasture-raised or if they're $1.99 a dozen. Whatever ethical beliefs you have, you can work around that, but I would just say get the meat in your house, cook it, start eating it.
Just get a bunch of meat and eat it.
That's all that matters.
That's something you can tweak as you go along.
Yeah, and if you think about the concept of optimization, you can only optimize something that you're already doing. You can't optimize something that you haven't done yet. So the optimization comes later. You optimize something that you have been doing and now you want to optimize it. You have to do it first.
So just do it.
Just do it.
It's worked out for you?
Yeah.
So how long do you think you're going to eat this way? How much longer? And then we'll close on that.
How much longer? Forever.
So over and over until it's over.
Yes, over and over until it's over.
All right. We'll check back in at the end of your life to see.
Will do. All right.